starting with Themistocles from Plutarch's Lives, translated by John Dryden, revised by Arthur Hugh Clough. The birth of Themistocles was somewhat too obscure to do him honor. His father, Themistocles, was not of the distinguished people of Athens, but of the town Phraorhi, and of the tribe Leontis, and by his mother's side, as it is reported, he was base-born. I am not of the noble Grecian race. I'm poor, a Bratonon, and born in Thrace. Let the Greek women scorn me, if they please. I was the mother of Themistocles. Yet, Fannius writes that the mother of Themistocles was not of Thrace, but of Caria, and that her name was not Abratonon, but Euterpe, and Neanthes adds further that she was of Halicarnassus in Caria, and as illegitimate children, including those who were of half-blood or had by one parent an Athenian, had to attend to Canasargus, a wrestling place outside the gates dedicated to Hercules, who was also of half-blood amongst those that they considered to be gods. Having a mortal woman for his mother, Themistocles persuaded several of the young men of high birth to accompany him to anoint and exercise themselves together at Canasargus, an ingenious device for destroying the distinction between the noble and the base-born, and between those of the whole and those of the half-blood Athens. However, it is certain that he was related to the house of Lycomeda, for Simonides records that he rebuilt the chapel of Philae, belonging to that family, and beautified it with pictures and other ornaments after it had been burnt by the Persians. It is confessed by all that from his youth he was of a vehement and impetuous nature, of a quick apprehension and a strong aspiring bent for action and great affairs. The holidays and intervals in his studies he did not spend in play or idleness as other children, but would always be inventing or arranging some oration or declamation to himself, the study of which was generally the excusing or accusing his companions, so that his master would often say to him, "You, my boy, would be nothing small but great, one way or other, for good or else for bad." He received reluctantly and carelessly instructions given him to improve his manners and behavior, or to teach him any pleasing or graceful accomplishment, but whatever was said to improve him in sagacity or in management of affairs, he would give attention to beyond one of his years, from confidence in his natural capacities for such things, and thus afterwards, when in company where people engage themselves in what are commonly thought the liberal and elegant amusements, he was obliged to defend himself against the observations of those who considered themselves highly accomplished, by the somewhat arrogant retort that he certainly could not make use of any stringed instrument, could only, were a small and obscure city put into his hands, make it great and glorious. Notwithstanding this, Stesimbrotus says that Themistocles was a hearer of Anaxagoras, and that he studied natural philosophy under Melesus, contrary to chronology, Melesus commanded the Samians in the siege by Pericles, who was much Themistocles' junior. And with Pericles also, Anaxagoras was intimate. They, therefore, might rather be credited who report that Themistocles was an admirer of Themistocles, the Frere Archean, who was neither rhetorician nor natural philosopher, but a professor of that which was then called wisdom, consisting in a sort of political shrewdness and practical sagacity, which had begun and continued almost like a sect of philosophy from Ceylon, but those that came afterwards and mixed it with pleadings and legal artifices, and transformed the practical part of it into a mere art of speaking, and an exercise of words, were generally called sophists. Themistocles resorted to Mnesiphilus when he had already embarked in politics